Yeah. All right. So here we go.
Oh,
We're
here
going
we
to go
go.
live. I think we're live right now.
Yeah, I got the notification.
Oh, cool, 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 cool. So give me 1 second here. And okay, I believe we're live. Uh, first of all, I apologize to everybody for the technical difficulties we had earlier. And for those of you just joining us right now, I have with me Mr. John Snell, and he is so gracious to come back and do this webinar. First of all, for those of you who don't know Mr. Snell is first of all, a very accomplished trumpet player. And he also is the lead technician and office manager of Bob Reeves Mouthpieces and music products. And it's just an honor to have John here. And John is the leading, in my opinion, one of the leading experts in troubleshooting as far as equipment and getting the right equipment to fit you. So, John, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for your patience, my friend. How are things out there in sunny California?
Oh, we're doing great. Doing great. I mean, we were smoky for a few weeks, but fortunately, that's starting to clear out. And yeah, family's healthy and shop is doing well. So very, very thankful, all things considered.
That's good. And for me and a lot of the peers, we'd like to wish Bob a happy belated birthday. He just
Yeah,
celebrated a birthday. How
89, if you can believe
89
that.
years old.
Yeah.
And for those of you who never met Bob, I highly suggest you do it. So he's a master. And so John, we last time we talked, we went over your background as a trumpet player. We went over your you getting into the business with Bob. Let's just do a quick recap for some of them who have not watched the first webinar. Let's talk about how you got involved with Bob Reeves, kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I was going to Cal State Northridge at the time. I was a performance major, and I did computers, web design, and network administration as a day job to pay for school and all of that stuff. And actually, I just got a call from out of the blue from Ko, he was the manager at the time running the shop. And to be honest, I didn't. I had a friend who had a Bob Reeves mouthpiece, but I didn't know who it was. I didn't know where the shop was. I didn't know anything about the history or what they did. Didn't know what a valve alignment was, but it was kind of an inroads into something that was a little closer to trumpet. And at the time, I didn't like a desk job programming all day for things that I didn't really have a passion for. So yeah, I went up there for my job interview, which I showed up in a suit. And the first thing Bob said is, if you ever wear that again, I'm going to fire you. And they kind of looked at my resume and threw it in the trash and said, you're hired. There was really no interview. It was more kind of them just showing me what they do. And yeah, I started making swabs and answering the phone and shipping things and the kind of the normal stuff. And yeah, now I kind of run the place for Bob so that he can be 89 and do the things he wants to do, come in and work on lathes or talk to the customers, and he doesn't have to worry about the nuts and bolts of how the business runs. So very, very fortunate.
Yeah. And, for those of you who don't know John, and John's father is also a very accomplished trumpet player too, Keith Snell. For those of you who remember, and I'm dating myself, there were these books called Intermediate Trumpet Solos.
Mm-hmm.
They had red with the nice trumpet on it. Those are all done by John's father, Keith. And first of all, thank your dad for the shirt. I love the shirt. And it's like one of my favorite shirts. It's just not clean or else I'd wear it. So forgive me.
Yeah, it's okay. Next time. Part 3.
So, John, last time you were on the webinar, we had a lot of questions after the fact. And one of the questions was, John, is when somebody comes into the shop and they get, first of all, they get a valve alignment and say it doesn't work for them. Now, for those of you, and I'm just going to say this, I've talked to 100 guys that worked with Bob Reeves over the years, and one of the things is the customer service is outstanding. And so I'm going to let John tell you, but for me, if you're not happy with something, you can always call John back and, be nice, but say, hey, John, this didn't work for me. Can you help me out? And these guys will bend over backwards for you. And so, John, can you talk about some times where guys have come back to you and said, "Hey, this doesn't work for me," and what Bob does in order to.
Well, certainly. Yeah. And thank you for all the kind words. And I'm glad we've taken care of you.
Yeah, always, always.
And we wish that was the case 100% of the time. Unfortunately, we're human. And, I mean, I'm human, and I've unfortunately not been nice to people when I've had a bad day or they say the wrong thing to me. And I always call them back and apologize. And Bob, and I mean, no one's guilty. I mean, not guilty of, not giving 100% best customer service. But we're human. And so the only thing we can do is, if we do make a mistake, is fix it.
Yeah.
It goes down to our guiding principle from Bob, which is our goal is that you sound better in the job you have to do after working with us, and if what we do for you doesn't get you closer to that goal, then we fix it. Now, we have a pretty set order of doing things. And why do we do that? Well, because between Bob starting 52 years ago and me for the last 20 years, and Brett, who's he's actually the lead technician. I'm the lead alignment technician, but Brett's the shop foreman. He's in charge of everything in the shop now. He's been with us 10 years. We've seen what's worked for 99% of the players that have seen us. Everyone from the top world-class touring artist to the high school student to the amateur who just sits at home and plays Jamie Aebersols. Yeah. And so there's certain things they're going to work for 99% of the people, but it's a process. So like, for example, the alignment. Usually you need to do an alignment. Why? I mean, we've done 20,000 of them. A vast, vast, vast majority of the ones we've done have worked out, like in that the horn plays better, the horn plays the way it should, and then the mouthpiece, you can make a better mouthpiece decision. Maybe what you're already playing on, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a new mouthpiece, but the horn is regulated and it's stable. Right. So it's going to play consistently. That being said, I mean, there's a certain percentage of the alignments we do where the alignment is so far out, the mouthpiece the player was using is not going to work with the balance of the horn now.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It does mean you may need to spend more money.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like, oh, you need a Bob Reeves mouthpiece after you get an alignment. Like, we don't care what you get. It may be a smaller box size or a smaller Monette size or a bigger Monette. I mean, it could be something else. But in the long run, it's going to get you set up so we don't see you for 40 years because the horn's stable and you have a mouthpiece that now matches the horn for the job you have to do.
Right.
So, yes, that's what we recommend most times when you consult with us. Why? Because, like I said, it works 99% of the time. If you're one of those 1% of the players where the alignment just messes things up so that you can't play the horn because you're so used to it or whatever, we put it right back.
Right. And that's one of the things. And from what I've talked to, some of the older cats that have known Bob for years, Bob has always been that way.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say no questions asked, because we want to know why it didn't work for our own education, and also because there may be a simple fix that we can adjust so that you get your cake and can eat it too. You get the alignment, and then with a paper trick or a balancing of the gap or something, we bring that resistance or that balance back into the horn, and then you're going to play even better. But if the player says, I'm not interested in that, we say, okay, give us the horn, we'll put it right back. And we've done that. We say it was funny, like when I first started 20 years ago, there was 5 horns we had put back. Okay. And 4 of them were for the one player, and it was like a big, great story that Bob loves to tell. But I mean, basically, all 4 horns were ridiculously dirty, ridiculously out of alignment, and the player was using like a Bach 1C drilled, huge bore size, huge back bore. Everything was drilled out. And once we took the resistance away, one from cleaning the horn, and then also from aligning the horn, he just fell into all the instruments. But the funny thing is, he came to us because he was working too hard. So had he actually been interested in getting maybe a smaller backbore or something that he could blow against, it probably would have worked. But it was one of those things back in the 70s where then
exactly.
He's like, put him back. And Bob put him back, gave him the guy the money back, and he went on his happy way. So since then, since I've started working there, there's probably been 4 or 5 that I've put back.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, 2 of those 4 or 5, the player got the horn back to where it was originally, and they said, "Oh yeah, I forgot how it played. It did play better with the alignment." So then they sent it back out to us, and we realigned it. So
That's great.
I mean, does that mean someone got an alignment and went, "Eh"? Probably, but then we never heard from it. Heard from them. So if we never heard from them, there's nothing we can do. So
Right.
if
Well,
you get alignment from us and you're not happy with it, call me. You know, I
right.
take pride in my work, but again, I take pride in you sounding better and being happy with what we do.
And I'm going to say this: I've known you, John, for maybe about 4 years,
Mhm.
and one thing I love about Bob Reeves is, I walk into the shop and I tell you what I need or and we talk a little bit, and then you give me what I need, and I'm done. But the thing is, there's no sales pitch. That's one thing I really love about it. It's a if we have what you need, great. If not, you can always come in and say hi, and there's no, um so that's one thing I really loved about Bob, is that he's very, if the stuff you have works for you, fine, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and it's not a mouthpiece. He's known as a mouthpiece maker, but we help you with the whole process. Like I said, actually this was before we went live, but I mean, we consider ourselves guides.
yeah,
You know, when you want to learn to play the trumpet, you want to learn the technique, you go to a guide. You get a trumpet teacher,
yeah,
and they take you along the process. And it's not something that, okay, here's the Arbin's book, kid, learn to
yeah.
play the trumpet. Like, and the same is true with the equipment. It's an education, and it also evolves through your life. And we don't, if we sell you a mouthpiece, you go and play it, and then it'll be in a drawer in 3 months, and then you go on to the next manufacturer. And that's why trumpet players have drawers full of mouthpieces. And that is also what sets us apart from pretty much everyone else out there. Is we do more than mouthpieces. We understand the physics from the end of the bell to the mouthpiece,
Mhm.
and we know at which step of the way where we can eliminate variables to get you closer to your goal. And just like a trumpet teacher will say, okay, now we're fixing this with your breathing. Okay, now we're fixing this with your finger technique. And they guide you to get to your goal. It's up to you to do the work, right?
Right.
But we're there along the way to educate you. And that's why, if, like you're saying, we do I mean, you have the final decision, but we educate you and let you know this is your different courses of action that you can take, what the results are probably going to be, because we're
Yeah.
never 100% certain, you know. And then it builds up trust so that the next thing something goes wrong, or next time, oh, now I'm a classical musician and now I have a pops gig, what do I do? You can call us and trust us, because we're not going to just sell you another piece. We're going to give you a breadth of options and explain which one, what does what.
And the also too, the plating is
Mm-hmm.
top notch. That's one thing I've noticed. I've had a Reeves mouthpiece for about 10 years now, and have had yet an issue with the plating. You know, so again, I'm not a spokesman for Bob Reeves. We have spokesman
Where's
right.
your tip jar, Joe? I got to keep every time you say something nice to us, I'm going to send you a tip.
But no, it's just so I'm just being very transparent here. It's like, I'm very, I notice things like, quality. I notice things like, and so also too, I'm just gonna say this, John, and I'm not trying to ring the bell too much from the Bob Reeves bell, but I sent a horn to you years ago, and it's a horn that's not made in America. It was a horn made in Asia somewhere, and they have a notorious reputation for the lacquer just peeling off when it gets chem cleaned. Okay. So I sent it to you guys, and you guys cleaned it perfectly. Lacquer came, you guys knew exactly what you were doing. And then I gave it to somebody who didn't know what they were doing, and the lacquer peeled off like all together. And he goes, "Oh, well, this horn's cheaply made." I was like, "Well, I just had Bob clean it like a year ago, and it was perfect." So that's one thing I've noticed too, is like, you guys, you've seen all these things come through, and you know kind of how to deal with them. You know,
Yeah, and it all comes from Bob. I mean, it's hard to, what's the word, underestimate, overestimate, underestimate how much experience he has. I mean, he's been making mouthpieces and helping customers under his own name for 52 years. But then before that, he worked for Proviance for another at least 5 or 6. And he worked for the Benge, the Burbank Benge company, which was a high-end custom trumpet manufacturer. So Bob can build a trumpet. Like, he can spin a bell. He knows everything about the trumpet. And before that, he was one of the top tool makers and machinists for the Navy. He was in China Lake, which, for those of you who don't know, China Lake was like where they were making space shuttle parts. They were making parts for Sidewinder missiles and stuff in the 50s, when technology to do that stuff didn't exist. And he was doing it all on manual lathes with slide rules and stuff. Like, the man's knowledge is absolutely incredible, and goes back more than 60 years. The guy's he's a walking dictionary. And so that's why I say I'm so fortunate not to be only to be able to help him out and run the business, but every day is an education for myself, for Brett, everyone at the shop, because I mean, we could work there for 40 years and he'd still have a new trumpet player story and a new machining story. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, and that's where you're talking about the silver plating. Like, he insists that we do everything in-house. Every other manufacturer that I'm aware of sends their mouthpieces out for plating. I don't know of anyone. Maybe Warburton plates his own.
Yeah.
But other than that, everyone sends them halfway across the country to have them plated.
Yeah.
And some places are great at plating, but once something leaves your hand, it loses control.
Yeah.
You lose control of it. And the tolerances we hold. I have a video. We put a video up on YouTube that kind of introduces the shop and our manufacturing process. And one of my things is like, yeah, we're human. We make mistakes. Yeah. But the thing is, when we make a mistake, we know who to blame. Right? Ourselves.
Right.
And what does that allow you to do? When you make a mistake, it's not a mistake if you learn from it. Right. Yeah. And then you make a mistake, then you learn, and then you grow, and then you make less of those mistakes. So that's why the plating is the way it is. And the alignments, people say, I can have my local repair guy do an alignment. Well, has that local repair guy done 20,000 alignments? I personally have worked on over 5,000 Bach horns. Who do you want to trust with your Bach Strad that you just spent $3,000 for? Right. Someone who's done a handful of alignments on them and doesn't know what to look for, or someone who's worked on 5,000. I mean, I know almost year to year how the horns are and what to look for and where to measure and how the valves are made and how the surfaces are and things like that. I drive my wife crazy talking about all these interesting things about surfaces and how much they're threading the spring barrels has changed. And great, John. Great. But that's the thing. Like, we're always learning because we're doing everything in-house.
Yeah. And one thing I also noticed about, and we're going to go forward with some questions that I had from other people. Just in closing, as far as the quality control, Bob, mm-hmm. Bob, one thing I noticed is when I he could tell if his mouthpiece has been modified, like almost instantly. That's one thing, well, it doesn't play like it used to. Well, you forgot, back in the 70s where you drilled it, I mean, that's one thing I like about Bob is like, he's very, if you give him something, he could tell if it was something he did or something he didn't, like almost mm-hmm. instantly.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's when we're talking about quality control, that's very important. Like, he could tell, still at 89 years old,
Oh, yeah.
So one question I had, John, was about the Charlie Davis horns.
Yeah.
Charlie, for those of you who don't know Charlie Davis, Charlie Davis is a studio player out in LA, played with Buddy Rich and blah, 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 blah. Read his
Woody
bio.
Herman.
Yeah. Read his bio on Google if you want. But he's an amazing trumpet player, just an amazing trumpet player. And he came out a few years ago with some mutes that did very well. And now he has this trumpet. Can you talk about, I had a lot of guys ask me about the trumpet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, as a matter of fact, I got mine right here. And actually, before I start, it's Charlie's birthday today. So he's not on Facebook, so there's no chance of him seeing it. But happy birthday, Charlie.
Charlie.
But yeah, Charlie, I'm very fortunate. Again, I studied with him for 3.5, almost 4 years. And now it's one of the coolest things I do is I get to work with him fairly closely because we sell his mutes, and then also we distribute the horns for him because
Right.
Charlie's interested in tweaking them and getting them made, but he's not a music store. He doesn't want to sell them. So it's really cool now, 20 years later, after studying with him, to get to know him on a personal basis and to help him with his horns. He's got two lines basically. One is his kind of his he calls like his West Coast models, are based off the old Dominic Colicchio horns.
Okay.
One, because they're hard to find, and two, they've kind of changed through the years from what Dominic was making. I mean, he was literally like a mile down the street from Bob's original shop.
Yeah.
And so what Charlie did was he got a bell mandrel made off of a real famous 1S2 model, which the 1S bell is
Yeah.
probably the most famous Colicchio model. Is what Chuck Finley used, and I mean probably dozens of the top studio players and commercial players around the world. So, and the real fame, everyone has offered a lot of money for this 1S2. So Charlie's like, well, I'll measure the bell and at least be able to make that bell. So he made a mandrel off of that 1S. And then he's made a series of mandrels based on the Colicchio 2, 3, 7, and 9 pipes.
Yeah.
And so you can basically get any of those original Colicchio models. These are a little different now. I mean, the valve cluster is, not a Colicchio, but it's got a valve alignment on it. We do all of his horns. So before it gets sold, it's ready to go out of the box with an alignment. And then each horn Charlie play tests and tweaks. He's got a whole bag of tricks that I remember studying with him. Hey, John, let me see your horn. I was playing an old Burbank Benj at the time. And he'd ream something out or, open a Venturi or something. Okay, now play it. There you go. That's the sound, So he's like a walking encyclopedia of ways to adjust a horn and get it to play. And as you mentioned, he's an incredible player. So when he plays a G in the staff, he can hear and knows what he's feeling, what he's hearing. And so he adjusts each one of these horns before it's sold. So he's got the kind of the Colicchio line. And then he's got basically the CD, which is his signature bell, which is based off of his 37, which is the Sterling, the Sterling Shuffle. I don't know if you ever heard that CD with Jerry Hay and Gary Grant.
I transcribed that tune 100 times.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah.
Amazing.
So I mean, Charlie he's played that for years, and he still uses it for some stuff. But he was never able to find a backup or a replacement for it.
Oh, wow.
And he probably played 1,037s, and come to find out, the reason why is they made his bell wrong.
Oh.
Since he was the artist, they made 12 prototype Sterling silver bells, and this was before they came out with the line. They were only able to use one of the bells because they didn't know. Sterling silver is terrible to work with. It's a terrible metal to machine and to form, and they didn't know how to form it. But so out of all of this, and it's an expensive material, so out of 12 bells, there was one that was usable, and Charlie happened to like it, which was great. Now we know why. There were certain parts of it that were a little thinner, and certain parts of it where they were a little wider than a standard 37. Which, if you know Charlie's playing, it's got like that gusto, like it's got,
It's very to put it, Germanic.
Yeah.
It's very big. And
yeah. Big. So his CD bell is like, I call it like a 37 on steroids because it barks, like it goes when you want it to, but it plays like a 37. It's very in tune. And if you're playing in a quintet or something or whatever, like it's very flexible. So that's actually the one I'm using. He's got a 25 that he uses, 25 pipe. He also has a New York 6 pipe that he measured because Doc Severinsen said so.
Yeah.
He called Doc up and said he was making horns, and Doc said, make sure you have a New York 6 pipe. Best pipe out there. Love that pipe. So Charlie said, yep, got to make sure I have the New York 6. So, between those two bells and those lead pipes, he's got maybe about a dozen combinations that he's been doing, and they're great. Like they're selling like hotcakes as fast as he can get them, make them, and put them together. And they're really big in Japan. A lot of the top players in the studios over in Japan are using them. So,
really?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. How did first of all, what is the cost of these? I got a question of that. A lot of people don't know the cost.
Yeah, so they're lacquer or silver. He might start doing raw brass. I've kind of talked to him into maybe doing raw brass, but right now they're so 3200 for lacquer and 34 or 35 for silver.
Okay.
So, I mean, considering that you're getting the $230 alignment included and Charlie's play tested, it's not just a production, you know,
Yeah.
conveyor belt horn. You're getting a custom horn for not much more. And actually, for some of the Bach Yamaha prices out there now, for even less than what you would get for some of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So also I heard that he's also uh I was forgive me, I lost track of thought, but as far as his horn, you talk about the with the Clicchio bell,
Mm-hmm.
and what application is it very as far as a lot of the players that have bought these,
Mm-hmm.
what is mainly the application they're using it for? Is it mostly commercial work, classical work? What?
Yeah, so for the Colicchio side, it's mostly commercial and jazz.
Okay.
The 1S2, and if you've never played a Colicchio before, the 1S bell, it's got a lot of front end. It's got a lot of front end to the note,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's really easy to sizzle, which is why a lot of the guys in Hollywood, Chuck and whatnot, were using it, and it's like it records great on mic.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, so that's the 1S. The 7 and the 9 pipes are bigger, so a little more of the jazz
Mhm.
big band players like those, especially if they want more of a freer blow than the 2 or the 3 pipe. And then the 37 or the CD bell, again, more of an all-around horn, classical, but it can light up. I mean, Charlie uses his 37 for lead, so that it can definitely sizzle. But it's the CD bell is definitely more of a versatile bell
Okay.
because it's got the front attack isn't as percussive as the Colicchio 1S gets.
Oh, okay. And what is the wait time for those?
It depends. He's got some in stock.
Oh, really?
He's
Okay.
yeah, he's got some in stock for both bells. I mean, the best thing to do is just call the shop and then I can see what he's got. Yeah, he's got a lot of silver in stock. The lacquers are a little difficult to come by because it's hard to get a good lacquer job these days, which is a whole nother story. But he's definitely got plenty of silver in stock of most of the models.
Yeah, it's weird is that I'm not really a silver guy. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
like, so I can understand that. I get that. I mean, so um, so one of the questions I've been really wanted to ask you, John,
Yeah.
is a lot of people think that the music business is shut down and things aren't moving. However, that may be true to an extent. Yeah, gigs aren't happening and live events, but people are still getting mouthpieces. People are still getting alignments. People are still upping their game. Can we talk about that a little more? I mean,
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
yeah,
Yeah, and this is a great time. And it's part of my job is trumpet and trombone therapy at the shop. You know, like we get calls where just people want to talk. It's especially in the last few months because there's chaos in the world,
yeah,
right? Uh, but there's a lot of different ways to think about things, and there's players, amazing players that I know that haven't touched their horn in months, and on the flip side, there's players that are redefining themselves right now. You know, and there's a couple of games. First of all, with any crisis, there's always opportunity because people freak out, people get scared, they shut down, which is a natural reaction, but it doesn't mean you have to. You think about what you have control over, right? I can't control if the person out front of my house is wearing a mask or not, or if they have COVID or not. I can't control when the LA Phil is going to reopen or Broadway is going to reopen, right? But
right,
what do I have control over? I have control over myself. I have control over my skill set. I have control over my emotions, right? And how I handle things. And there was a real defining moment, at least for me, during the shutdown, because I mean, I was a wreck. I'll be honest, right? Like when the shop had to shut down and the numbers were getting worse and my wife's not working and my kids aren't at school and I'm sitting here and it's like, what do I do?
yeah,
Right? What do I do? And as a shop, like, how can we help players? We can't do valve alignments. We can't make mouthpieces. The shop can't just not shut down and not exist.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do we do? Well, we help players. Well, what do players need? They need connection right now. They need inspiration right now. So instead of doing one monthly podcast for trumpet, there was some weeks I was recording 4, 5 podcasts. I was doing almost a podcast a day, trumpet and trombone. We started a trombone podcast. I was like, people need to hear from inspiring people. But then I realized, okay, well, you listen to it, there's no interaction. And okay, well, we have to start doing live stuff, So, okay, I have dreaded doing video. I mean, there's a reason why it's an audio.
So well.
There's a reason why it's an audio only podcast. Like and that even is like nerve wracking for me still to this day. But I was like, yeah, I have to do it. I have to get out of my comfort zone, because as a shop, we need to be providing a service to the brass community. And
Right.
so we started doing the live Q&As and started doing 3 or 4 or 5 of those a week.
Right.
And it's like, and what it was is thinking about, well, what business are we really in? Right? Yeah. We're not in the mouthpiece business. We're in a service business. And if the brass community needs inspiration and content and connection, that's what we're going to give, because we can't do a valve alignment or a mouthpiece or cut your mouthpiece for sleeves. So on the flip side, so now the musician side of things, right? If you define yourself, if you're a symphony musician and your symphony is closed down right now, yeah, you could say, okay, I'm done. I can't play in the hall. I can't play Beethoven. I'm done, and pack up the horn. But is that really the business are you in? Are you in the music? Are you in the connection? Are you in the emotion? Are you in the, like, using my instrument to convey emotions and thoughts? Because you know what? You got a lot of time to do that right now. And it's so easy to connect with people. Now, that doesn't solve the economical problem, but I have customers that are doing better now and reaching more people and inspiring more people with their music than they were in their symphony job before the shutdown. They haven't been in Disney Hall in 6 months or 7 months, but they're reaching more people and making more music and making more connection now, being shut down. Right. And some of them are doing better financially than their symphony position.
I agree.
Right? You think about it. So, I mean, in the turn of the last century, right? If you were in the railroad business, you were high flying and making billions of dollars or whatever, right? If you thought you were in the railroad business when automobiles and trucks come along, right?
Yeah. So
if you think about it that way, closed mindset, yeah, I'm in the railroad business. We get trains from A to B and we move lots of stuff. And now there's semi trucks that can do it for half the cost. Well, if you think about yourself in the transportation business, right? Now you're not defined by this small little thing that you've done every day, maybe for years or decades or your whole life. And so the companies back then that considered themselves in the railroad business shut down and went bankrupt. And the ones that realized, oh, there's ways we can expand this into transportation or getting people in style or whatever. So if you're a musician and you're sitting at home right now, think about what you actually do and what you want to do and make the most out of this situation. I mean, I know classical players that have learned jazz in 6 months and vice versa, or developed range, or, they're calling me on the phone, John, I need a new mouthpiece because I want to get into this kind of playing. Okay, this is a great time to do it, because if you screw your chops up, it's not going to matter. Right. So you get out of your comfort zone, you're expanding. And then when things do open up, there's going to be a whole new set of players that have, again, with every crisis, there's opportunity. It's just what's going on up here.
Right.
So it's been a really interesting time. And there's not downplaying the crisis that's going on, because it is terrible and there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world, but we've made it through it. Society has made it through a lot of terrible times. And the people that end up leading coming out of when things open up again, there's going to be a new renaissance. The Roaring 20s, where did the Roaring 20s come from? Some of the best music and jazz all flourished coming out of the last pandemic.
Right.
And it was one of the most profitable times for musicians, was the Roaring Twenties.
No, I agree. And
Yeah.
to just piggyback on that, you and I kind of have the same thing where we do a webinar. I did it because I got inspired by you when you had Jerry Hay on,
Oh,
and
well,
I was like, people need. I mean, they need an escape. I mean, right now football's on, everyone's watching
yeah.
football. Great, but before that, I mean, everything on Facebook, everything on social media was gloom and doom, and I was like, I need a break from all this. I want to talk trumpet with guys that know more than I do. So I kind of
Right.
did the same thing. I kind of started, and I, like you, I've gotten a lot of benefit from doing this.
Yeah.
And started the virtual trumpet thing, and which is cool. And
And
again,
those videos you guys are doing are incredible.
thanks.
They're incredible, and you're reaching, and it's redefined music, right?
Yeah.
Like it used to be, well, I have to get a section together and meet down at the rehearsal hall, or I have to get them coming over to my garage and record. And it's like you put amazing pieces of music together on film with people, some people you probably never met in person, right?
I've never met, maybe like out of all 13, I only know 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
that incredible?
it is.
And you're reaching so many people,
Yeah.
you know?
And one, like I said, I have you guys to thank for that, because that
Oh,
inspired me. When I saw the Jerry Hay thing, I was like, man, this is the way to go, because it inspired me to hear Jerry Hay talk about what's going on now.
mhm.
And so yeah, just adding to that, players are doing things, and
Yeah.
some players are doing things. And so let me ask you a question. When you get this, you get a lot of these players, like people that are playing the symphony asking you for a jazz piece, a jazz mouthpiece, or you get and you guys just don't do it, like you say, you don't just do mouthpieces, you give advice. There's also, and I'm not trying to plug Bob Reeves, but the Howie Shear series that he has on bebop playing
Mhm.
is exquisite. It's outstanding. It's great. And that's something you guys provide. Because I think Howie teaches out of the shop there sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, Howie is a gem. I mean, I could go
Yeah.
on for days about Howie. But yeah, he's the jazz trumpet teacher at Cal State Northridge, and then yeah, he teaches privately, and he uses the front room of the shop on the weekends. So
Yeah. So that's, if you guys ever get a chance, get the Howie Shear book. I'm playing. That is a great book, by the way. I highly recommend it. So let me talk to you. I got a lot of questions about the Van Lars,
okay,
what they are, where they came from, and how am I right when I say it's German engineering?
Dutch,
Oh,
Dutch.
forgive me.
I won't I won't tell Hugh you said that.
Oh yeah,
That's okay.
forgive me.
I mean,
Um,
my geography is terrible, and it's like when I went over to the East Coast last year, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's like right near New York City, right?" No, 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 that's like 12 hours away. Oh, okay. Forgive me, I don't even know what U.S. state I'm in. Um,
yeah, I failed geography.
yeah,
So,
uh,
but can you talk to us about the Van Lars? I mean, a good friend of mine, Richie Brannon, bought one,
mhm.
and he's like, it's a wait, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. And it kind of pricked my ears up about what they are, because I'm hearing so many people talk about them.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for asking about him. And I had interviewed Hugh Van Laar on the podcast, and so I mean, you've said nice things about Bob Reeves. I'll plug the podcast that I do. The other side of the bell, I interviewed Hugh Van Laar, and so I said I think it was a couple years ago. So they're all on Spotify, and so just scroll down a little bit and look for the one with Hugh Van Laar, because there's nothing like hearing him explain how he got started and how he developed his horns. But basically, he started small, like in his own garage. He started repairing instruments. He actually did apprentice. He came out to the U.S. for a couple of years, and then he worked with a master horn maker, small custom shop in Germany, before he started his own shop.
Yeah.
And he started doing flugelhorns. And it was interesting because that's normally kind of a secondary instrument for us, but in Dutch music and Dutch society, their marching bands have flugelhorns instead of clarinets, and so it's almost like a national instrument. Everyone knows flugelhorn. There's famous flugelhorn artists besides Chuck Mangione,
Yeah.
and there's not really a lot of good flugelhorns on the market. So he thought that would be a good place to start, because if he can make, for example, like a queenon that sounds like a queenon but plays in tune and blows well and blows evenly,
Yeah.
there's a niche there. So that's what he started doing. He started with flugelhorns, and then he became really good friends with the trumpet players on the James Last Orchestra, which, for those of you viewing, I don't know if you're familiar. James Last, I think he was a German conductor,
Yeah.
and kind of like a Lawrence Welk type, like kind of popular music and arrangements, but for instrumentals. And he would tour. He's huge in Europe. He passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But he had an all-star trumpet section. It was Chuck Finley, Bob Finley,
Derek Watkins.
Derek Watkins,
Wow.
and then I think Bob Coison, who's a great player from Australia. So he would fly this hand-picked trumpet section in, and they would do their tours. And Van Laar met the guys, said, "Hey, let me build you a flugelhorn," and started with that. They became good friends and drinking buddies and whatnot. And he actually would drive around Europe following the tour in his little car, making adjustments to the horns and things like that. And so that started to take off. Like, those guys fell in love with the horns. I mean, Derek Watkins was involved with Smith Watkins, so he ended up making a horn for him and loved it. And then he decided to do B flat trumpets. So he started making B flat trumpets. I think it was, Chuck was on his Colicchio. Derek Watkins had I think Mount Vernon Bach at the time. I think Coison had a Colicchio, and Bob Finley, I think, was on a Marcinkiewicz trumpet.
Yeah.
And so he basically said, if I can make something better than what you're playing, give me the shot. And so 3 of the 4 of the guys ended up switching over to Van Laar at that time. Of course, when you have Chuck and Bob Finley and Bob Coison all using an instrument and a flugelhorn, ears start to pick up, and it kind of went from there. And our involvement from them started 7 or 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
We were doing a European tour. Bob and Brett and I and my dad came along for that one. So we went to Thomann Music, and we visited actually a trumpet player studio in Freiburg, Germany, set up for the day, and had potato salad and pretzels and
Nice
alignments. Oh, it was so much fun. I mean, that's kind of stuff we do. Like, we're doing alignments in our hotel room. We're doing somebody's practice studio. And then Van Laar invited us to his factory, because he had carried our mouthpieces for years. So I'm like, okay, why not? And I remember that we showed up. The staff came out and greeted us. Hube came out. He's a big Dutch farmer guy, comes and says hello and shows us through his factory. And it had obviously grown since he started 25 or 30 years ago. It was pristine.
Wow.
Like, you could eat off the floor.
Wow.
And he started showing Bob around. I mean, I had never really been in a trumpet factory before, other than watching it on Mr. Rogers, right?
Exactly.
And but I mean, Bob worked at Benj. He knows how to build a horn, like I was saying. So Hugh was starting to show Bob some of the things he had put together on how to assemble a horn and how he's doing things. And Bob was flipping out. And when we left, we had a great day, very cordial. He let us do alignments there and do mouthpieces and things, had invited customers in. And when we left, Bob leaned over to me and said, "John, we have to get involved with him." And he's like, he's on to something.
No.
Bob doesn't say that.
No, he does not. No,
Bob does not say that.
Yeah.
And we also have traditionally shied away from actually carrying horns.
Yeah.
We did the V Raptor for a while. We carried Yamaha for a while. In the early days, Bob carried Schilke, like in the late 60s, 70s kind of thing. But it kind of conflicts with what we do, because we kind of take you with what you're doing and make it better, not here, you need a Van Laar or you need a Charlie Davis trumpet. And we still don't do that. When you come in and you want a valve alignment, I don't say, "Oh, hey, look at this Van Laar." And hey, like, we don't do that at all. Yeah. If you call and ask us about a Van Laar or Charlie Davis horn, we'll say we have them and talk about them. Yeah. So the fact that he said that was a really telling point for me. It just so happened Bob Finley was the only place you could get him in North America.
Oh, wow.
Because it had been set up kind of as a friendship thing. Yeah. Like, hey, I'll take these back to LA and have the studio players play them, things like that. And there was no other music stores that were carrying them. And he was kind of getting towards retirement from the studios and wasn't a music store and couldn't keep up with the demand since the Van Laar brand was growing. And so it was the perfect opportunity for us. So we bought out his existing inventory and took the dealership over from him. Thompson Music had also signed up around the same time.
Yeah.
So now it's us, and then East Coast Trumpets on the East. Ben Strickland carries them. So we make a great team, because if we have a horn that they need and they have a horn that we need, like we work real well together, and it's been really cool carrying them. And as a trumpet player, it's a little bit, every horn that comes in, it's like, ooh, I could take that one home.
You know, and I've heard, and first of all, just a side note, somebody told me this. I think it was somebody who was on the gig.
Mhm.
The last 007 film that Derek Watkins was on, because he's
Mhm.
the sound of 007. I don't know if you guys know that.
He's the
That's
guy.
him. That was a Van Laar that he played on, and a lot of guys were like, it was unmarked.
Mhm.
Wasn't like, I think he was just trying it, and
Yeah.
but that's the lot from what I hear, and from many sources, that was a Van Laar, but it was
Yeah.
unmarked. It was on,
Yeah, it was
and
his
he sounds
prototype or that.
amazing on that thing,
I
and
mean, Derek could sound amazing. It's on
yeah.
a garden hose, But yeah, that's an interesting story. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and so, but I've heard a lot of the praises I've heard about the Van Lars is that they're made so well. They're made very, very well. They're solid instruments. Some instruments, they feel bulky. Some instruments feel like they're going to fall apart in your hand. Some instruments feel cheap. This feels like you have just. I've heard so much about the quality of the instrument,
Yeah,
and um,
and that's part of the synergy we have, because they take a similar approach. They don't want to be a production horn. They never intend to be. So even though their brand is growing, they're popular horns. I mean, it's like a 4 to 6 month wait for them,
yeah,
and because they don't want to make them faster, because as soon as you do, it changes the characteristic of the horn. And that's the same thing with our mouthpieces. Like, we could mass produce our mouthpieces tomorrow if we wanted, right? We could run them on CNC, but you lose the character and the quality as soon as you do that. And so it's, yeah, they're the fit, the finish. I mean, they're very European, like how the finger buttons feel in your hand, and I mean the placement, things that I wouldn't even think about here, they've thought about to the nth degree. And yeah, they're beautiful horns, like the slides, everything. It's just like, yeah, that's you, their horns. Like, I've had a number of customers that have said, once you start playing it, like, you forget the horns there. And that's kind of the goal. Like, you have the music that's in your head, you have the audience or the microphone or whatever, and it should be just that connection directly between your brain and whoever's listening. And the mouthpiece and the sleeve and the whatever and the 4 feet of brass and the trumpet shouldn't even come into play.
right.
And we've had a couple customers just out of the blue say it's amazing. Like, I forget the trumpets there because it's so comfortable and it plays so fluid, you know.
and and on that note, I think, like, if any of you guys are interested in the Van Lars, John Snell's the guy to talk to. Again, I can't say this enough. John is the nicest man on the planet. Okay, it's just like he's the nicest guy, and
Hey,
it's
can I go get my kids and my wife and bring them in here? And will you say that again, please?
and every time and I don't know if John wants you to know this, he might not, but when you type on Facebook or on Instagram and you type in a question, more than likely it's John that responds to you. He's a social media.
Secrets out.
Oh, sorry, but I mean, and it's like I said, the customer service is outstanding, and so you can ask him any question under the sun about the Van Lars. He will take all the time in the world you need to understand what you're, or get you the answer to the question you have. So if you guys have a question about the Van Lars, please contact John, and he'll take it from there. But John, one thing I really liked about you off the top was you have this innate ability to troubleshoot and just pinpoint problems and fix them right away. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is your opinion on how players need to get out of their own way, meaning, and the current, that's not my phrase, that's a friend of mine's, but get out of their own way, and how much of it is operator error, how much of it is the tool that you're using. And when you get, you've seen everybody under the sun, every, from the top studio pro, like you said, to the beginner. What are some of the things you've noticed or common denominators you've noticed of players that come in, and what works and what doesn't? What is the common denominator that a lot of them find in equipment as far as?
Yeah, great question. And I mean, as we all know, everyone's different.
Yeah.
But the common denominator with the successful
Yeah.
musicians that I know is they found out what worked for them. They took the time, they invested the time and sometimes money, unless everything was given to you, right? To find out what worked for them. And that kind of adage, like, well, Brad Herseth could play on anything. Like I already said, Derek Watkins can play on a garden hose. That may be true, but they don't, right? Like Chuck Finley found what worked for him 60 years ago or 55 years ago. He went into Bob's shop. He went into Clicchio's shop. He was always going back to Clicchio and getting tweaks done. Um, I mean, we've worked with a lot of players that are, you think they tell their students, or you think they've only played the same mouthpiece and horn for the last 45 years, but they haven't. I see their list of everything we've made for them. A lot of them didn't work because they were trying and experimenting with things to try to do something, and they ended up with going a different direction. And I think there's two things. One, going back to like getting a guide, right? Yes, it's technically possible to learn the trumpet from watching YouTube videos, but how invaluable is having a private teacher there every step of the way who's doing what you want to do, right? They'll get you there faster. The trumpet players that go on the forums and the Facebook groups and who knows where nowadays you can get information and says, hey, I want to play lead trumpet. What mouthpiece should I use? And then you get 700 comments. Half of them say it's not the mouthpiece, it's you. Half of them say you need heavy valve caps. And then you get probably 200, lead mouthpieces that work for that particular player. I mean, come on, is that going to really guide you and give you any actionable advice? No. And I'm not floating our own boat here, but we literally talk to dozens of players a day, and I have for 20 years and Bob has for 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Like talking about why we recommend the alignment first and things like that. It's because it works, like we know what's going to do something. Oh, I need a broader sound, or I need to sizzle more, or oh, when I get to this certain range, like I can go through in the catalog in my head dozens of players in the last 6 months that I've worked with that have had similar problems, that played on similar mouthpieces, that I can say, try this.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it takes the fog out of equipment. And most trumpet players, look, I've been doing this for 20 years and I still don't 100% understand the acoustics of why things work the way they are, and there's much smarter people that came before me that still didn't understand. Bob studied acoustics with Bill Cardwell, who's probably was one of the smartest people on the face of the planet. He's one of those guys, when he speaks to you, every single word he chose for a reason, unlike me. Right?
Unlike myself.
Yeah. Well, every single word had a point and a meaning. And he studied the acoustics of the trumpet and developed trumpet playing, the equipment side of things, and more than probably anyone since Vincent Bach. He could tell you he didn't know everything about acoustics.
No.
Right? So then how do you expect a high school kid to know what mouthpiece to play, why something works and why it doesn't work? When something's working, why is this harmonic flat and this harmonic sharp, or what? Like, even really great trumpet players don't know that because they haven't thought about the equipment. Well, what do we do all day? I think about the equipment all day, and I recommend things to people, and I know when they work and I know when they don't work most of the time. Like we talked about before, there's some people that my recommendations don't work and then they don't come back and tell me, and then I can't learn, and they go, but that's the thing. So when we can guide you and say, oh yeah, I know why this is happening, I'm almost 99% sure it's because of this.
No.
now you have a path. And yeah, it may mean spending some time. It may mean making a little bit of adjustment because you're used to, accommodating bad equipment.
Right.
So you're on what we call unlearning old habits. Well, guess what? Those old habits are extra work than you need to do. All of a sudden, you unlearn those habits. You're blowing straight through the middle of the horn. You're doing less adjustment here. You're chipping less notes. You got more endurance.
Right.
That's what we do day in and day out, and that's what the best players, from the Malcolm McNabbs to the orchestral players, they found what worked for them, usually early on.
Yeah.
And then when things did change, their job changed, or they did hit a wall in their practicing, they called someone.
Yeah.
But that death spiral of, oh, something's wrong here. Oh, you get up in the head really quick. You lose your confidence, you lose your baseline, and sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it is the equipment. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, there was a studio player out here that was going to retire because they were having huge problems. Turned out that their horn had been worked on and cleaned, and the alignment was messed up. Like, the repair shop messed up the alignment that we had done 10 years prior.
Yeah.
And this player was great. This player was, getting towards the end of their career, so couldn't manipulate the horn like they could when they were 20. And it had caught up to them. And they were honestly considering retirement. They called Bob. Let me see your stuff, right? They came up. We look at the horn. Dude, your horn's a mess. Well, I just had it worked on and clean. It's like, no, they screwed up the alignment. We put the alignment back. Player went and played another 5-6 years.
Right.
Symphony player, East Coast symphony player, major symphony.
No.
Dozen years, similar situation. Close to retirement, wasn't hanging on the job, felt frustrated with their own playing, tried every trick in the book to try to adjust their playing. Bob said, flew out. We aligned 6 of their horns. They played another 12 years in the symphony.
Wow.
So that's how big of a difference the equipment can make, when it's not right. And it's usually when you hit a wall, either because of age or because of challenge on the job or whatever. So that's why it's good to have that guide, just like you have that trumpet teacher, right? Check in with them. Say, hey, is there something? Oh yeah, do you realize your shoulder's like this when you're playing? Yeah, I didn't even know that. Okay, great. Here's your $100 or whatever trumpet teachers cost these days. Right? That's why you have a trumpet teacher. But you need to make sure your equipment is in working order. What would Pablo Picasso be if he didn't know what his brushes did and they were in good working order?
Right.
I mean, he uses tools.
Yeah. One of the things you said right off the bat, and I was like, well, when I first met you, and I just heard this last week when I interviewed Mike Campagna. Mm-hmm. He said this again, and it rang, just like an alarm went off, because I remember you saying this to me the first time. When I went into you, I said, look, I want this. And you asked me, well, what are you changing? And then I ran off a list of what I was changing. You're like, wait a minute. When you only change one thing at a time, don't change 17 things at once. And so can you elaborate on that, John, especially for the younger musicians watching this podcast or watching this webinar? Why it's important to change one thing at a time? Because again, if you're working on a golf swing, you don't change 17 things at once. You just change one thing. And if that works, then So can you elaborate on that, please?
Of course, it's a process, right? And the important thing is you have to have a baseline, right? You have to have a level where you're playing. And it gets tricky when you're young and you're improving, because that baseline can be going up and kind of like, no one's going up in a straight line. But the younger you are, you're making a lot of progress. So it's hard to tell where things are, which is why we don't normally recommend, especially really young players, switching much. If you're a senior in high school and you're playing lead in the jazz band and your teacher has you on a 1.5 C, you might consider getting a kind of a crossover piece so you don't bust your chops up on your 1.5 C playing lead, especially if they're playing big fat band charts, like a lot of high school, right? because you will hurt, like you'll create tension in the upper register. You'll hurt your chops playing on a mouthpiece that's not designed to play Wayne Bergeron, lead charts,
Yeah.
right? But anyway, back to my point, you need your baseline. And so, an established player will know how things feel and know what they can accomplish on the horn. They know what their endurance is for the most part. They know what the challenges are and what they do well. And if you change two things at once, okay, if it gets better, what caused it? You don't know. If it gets worse, what caused it? Which of the two changes that you make caused it getting worse? You don't know. So how do you know, what to do next? Well, you can't. You have to go back, and then when a lot of times you can't. If you drilled something out, you can't put the metal back in. You have to buy a new mouthpiece, which will then be different, and then you're down the rabbit hole. So, in fact, I just had this with a client last week. He had his valves replated, the horn cleaned. He had a new lead pipe put on his horn, and a new receiver put on, right? Gets the horn back, plays terrible. And he's freaking out. It's like, it could be the new lead pipe. It could be the fact that the valves aren't leaking anymore. It could be that the valve alignment changed because whoever did the valve plating put new pads in that weren't the same dimension as the original pads. It could be cleaning the horn. Like if the horn was terribly dirty, it changes the acoustics of the horn and how it plays. And so, like, how do we get back to that? Well, you put the old lead pipe on. You can't make the horn dirty, but I would say get used to playing a clean horn and keep it clean if you want consistency. So we had to go through and basically undo steps. And the receiver, we did sleeves to give him less gap because that was closer to the receiver he had on the old pipe. He put a new receiver on the old pipe while he was doing it. I was like, why did you do that? Well, the old receiver was worn out. It's like, so? Like, they don't go bad. Like, you can always add gap if the mouthpiece is going further in without touching the receiver, So we basically had to undo 3 of the 4 steps, and then all of a sudden the horn's playing better.
Yeah.
Right. And it was the perfect example. And he got the horn back 3 weeks ago from the repair person. So it's like he spent 2 weeks in chaos wondering what caused the horn to play worse and why it wasn't playing right. So if he had just done one thing, then we know, okay, don't do that again.
Exactly.
Put the receiver back or put the lead pipe back, or, okay, well, you were used to playing on leaky valves. So now we know the only thing you did was plate up the valves. Let's go from there. And we see that all the time with mouthpieces, right? Trumpet players, for some reason, are not logical. Maybe that's what makes us great trumpet players. We're creative and think about music and playing changes. But that's Bob's big thing is like opening up a bore size, drilling, what we call drilling out the mouthpiece. Yeah. You think, oh, I'm just making that hole size bigger so I can get more air through, which we'll get on another time. That'll be volume 3 about the airflow. But think about it. So if you open up a bore size on a mouthpiece, you're actually changing at least 4 things. You're changing, yes, the actual bore diameter. So if you go from a 27 bore to a 26 would be the next size bigger. That's one thing, right? When you make that section bigger, you're also lengthening it because you're cutting out part of the back bore and part of the entrance of the cup. So now you have a longer cylindrical section, which has acoustic properties to pitch and response. So that's 2 things. You're shortening the back bore because you're taking that top part out. So you're changing that shape, which is critical, and getting rid of it to make room for your bigger bore. So that's 3 things. You're also getting rid of part of the top of the cup, which is an also critical place acoustically. So that's 4 things that you're changing. So you drill it out and it plays great. Wonderful. But why did it play better? Was it because of the bigger bore size? Was it because of the cylindrical length? Was it because of the entrance of the throat? Was it because of the exit to the back bore? Was it a combination of 2, 3, or 4? Like, you can go nuts thinking about it, but the truth is you don't know what it is, so you don't know what to do next time.
One thing too, John, I really like, and Bob, you told me Bob really likes working with younger players. Mm-hmm. He really, of course he works with the super duper pros, but his passion is really working with the younger players. Now, for me, I have college students, but I have a lot of younger players. And one of the things I've noticed and I've learned from you guys is that players are taught by their teachers. If there's something wrong, if there's something you buy to fix it. A lot of teachers teach that. Well, that means you need a new this. For say, let's talk to the really younger players. Sophomore through senior in high school, and you hit that wall, or you want to get better, but you feel like there's something holding you back. And then you're taking lessons from your teacher. You're taking, you're playing on your, when I was a kid, I played on a 13A4A, and I played on that for 10 years. Uh, but uh, but what? So you don't have the money on your own. You got to ask mom and dad. For
Yeah.
so if when the young player hits that wall and they come to you guys, what are some of the steps you have? Again, this is for the younger players, and this is for the teachers here that should really listen to this. When a young player comes to you guys and said, "This is the wall I hit," what are some of the things you help guide them?
Well, the first thing Bob says is, "What do you want to do? Like, what's your goal?" And usually, if it's a serious student, they're like, I'm going off to college to be a professional musician, or I want to be a jazz player, or I want to be Jerry Hay, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next thing Bob says is, "Okay, how much are you practicing?" And the kid will say an hour or 2 hours. And next thing we'll say is, "Okay, double that," and then double it again. Right? Honestly.
Yeah.
Or we'll say, who's playing do you admire? Go find them, ask them how much they practiced when they were your age, and then double it. Because if they're making it now, it's twice as competitive now, or 4 times or 10 times as competitive as now as it was 40 years ago.
Right.
Look at orchestral auditions. I talked to Charlie Schluter, and he auditioned with 15 other people, for the New York Phil, or for now there's 300 that show up.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth. So we say, Bob especially loves pressing on the fact that you have to put in the time.
Yeah.
Then we kind of take everyone on an individual basis. Like, if it's a kid who comes to us and they're in the shop, we'll look at what they're doing. If it's something extreme, which is rarely the case, but sometimes it is, we'd try to get them somewhere kind of in the middle, right? Because they're too young to know what's going to work for them, or where they may be excited about jazz now, but they might want to be a lead player later, or, in 4 years, or they've never had the experience because they're in high school and all they've done is, to them, jazz is big band and concert band and marching band. So they haven't played in a combo. They haven't played in a rock horn section or whatever. So we try to get them kind of in a middle ground that's not too extreme one way or the other, so they can grow into it, but they're also not killing themselves.
Right.
A lot of young musicians are playing on stuff that's too big. And I'm talking especially the younger, like maybe a senior in high school, a 1.5C would be fine. But I mean, a freshman or sophomore in high school, they're still not even fully grown. They may not have gone through puberty yet. And they're playing on a huge diameter. They're working way harder than they need to, for the most part. I've had kids that are in middle school that play on a 1C. So again, I don't rule anything out. These are all kind of generalizations. But then what we do is we have them try a couple things. All right. We have them try something bigger. We have them try something smaller. And if something just sits better on their face, instantly. Right. Because they have, if they're hitting a wall because they're adjusting for something. Right. If it is indeed the equipment, and of course you get the kids where you give them everything under the sun and you can tell there's just something technical wrong with their fundamentals. And we've said, you need to go check with your trumpet teacher, or maybe get a second opinion. We don't want to offend someone's trumpet teacher, but also not every student is learning what they need from their teacher, either because the teacher doesn't know, or a difference in learning styles, right? Some kids just don't pick up from what maybe a wonderful teacher not picking up what they need from that teacher. So sometimes we have to do a little tap dancing to not offend people. But our goal is to have that kid leaving sounding better. And if we can't do it for them because it's a fundamental problem, we're not going to charge, we're not going to take their money.
No.
But if there is something that they can sound better on right off the bat, that kid's going to progress faster. They're
Right.
not as frustrated. They fixed an intonation problem, or they're playing all of a sudden a fifth higher in their range because all of a sudden their embouchure is set up more naturally for how they're built in their dental structure. Boom. You know,
Right.
we're going to state band, all state band, right?
Right. Uh, here's another thing that I've learned, and it might be a demographical thing. I mean, but a lot of players when they move to Los Angeles and say they're just section players or jazz players, and they start getting the rehearsal bands, and then they get a lead chart put in front of them. I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh my God, now I got to go get a lead piece."
Mhm.
You know, and how much of that do you see a lot? Do you see a lot of that with
Oh
players?
yeah, that's pretty common. Um, and it's an interesting thing because you can play lead on anything,
Yeah.
right? Should you? That depends,
Yeah.
right? That really depends. Because there's somebody like Charlie Davis that could sit down and legitimately play lead on a 3C.
Yeah.
He's got the energy to do it. I would also make the argument that Charlie's not mortal.
He is he's a freak of nature to get a sound like that on the 3C. And
Right?
yeah.
But here's the thing: like when he was on Woody's band, and well, he switched over on Buddy's band. When he was on Buddy's band, he could play that book on his, and he was playing bigger than the 3C then. He had a Schmidt back bore and a bigger bore size, so it wasn't even an off the shelf 3C. But he had to switch. He switched over to a 43S, I think,
Mhm.
to literally rein in his sound.
Wow.
Like he was covering the entire band because his mouthpiece was so big and it wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
He needed a focused cutting sound and something that, the rest of the band could be heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to hear Buddy. If you're going to go hear the Buddy Rich Big Band, you got to be able to hear Buddy, right? Um, so, I mean, in his case, even though he could do the job on a Bach mouthpiece, he needed a Reeves piece or needed a lead mouthpiece, not because he couldn't do the job on it, because it was a more appropriate sound,
Right.
right? And so that's the thing. Like, look, we're a mouthpiece maker. We help people, but so we can fix any problem we think with mouthpieces, and that may or may not be true.
Right.
But a lead piece isn't always the right answer for players.
Right.
Some players shouldn't be switching around, depending on your age. Some players should. Here's the thing about a lead piece.
Mhm.
If you give me a 3C, I could blow as hard as I wanted and the piece would still respond.
Yeah.
Right. Which then means, I could play inefficiently and I could still function.
Yeah.
The mouthpiece is not giving any feedback about how efficient I'm playing. So I could play, Carnival of Venice, and then I could play a salsa chart or something and play totally incorrect, and the piece is still sounding.
Right.
Now, I mean, you played a 14A 4A.
Yeah.
Like, if you overblow that thing, it would let you know.
Oh yeah.
If you played a 42S and you overblew it, it would let you know. It would shut off. Well, how many players say, "Oh, I can't play that. It's it shuts off on me." Well, it's telling you something.
Yeah.
A lead piece can be a great tool because it teaches you when you're overblowing the acoustics of the instrument, you're putting more energy in than you need to.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, what trumpet player would like to do their job easier? Like we're all a little bit lazy, right? I mean, how many of us chose the trumpet because it only had 3 buttons?
That's right.
Like
That's
we're lazy by nature.
Yeah.
So if you could play the trumpet a little bit easier with less work, I mean, who wouldn't be up for that? And that's the thing. I mean, in my own personal playing, I unlocked a whole side of my playing when I took a mouthpiece that I couldn't play because it was too efficient for me, and said, by golly, I'm going to learn how to play this darn thing.
Yeah.
And once I learned, because it was telling me, John, you're using too much air. You're putting too much energy in. It shuts off. Okay, I'm going to do this phrase again and not get it to shut off. What do I have to do? Well, okay, now I'm using less air. Now I'm, more relaxed here. I'm doing less. And all of a sudden that lead piece is opening up in sound. It doesn't sound shrill anymore. The notes are coming out. It's not backing up on me. Now I pick up my 3C and I play it the same way. all of a sudden I'm getting more sound and I'm playing notes on a 3C that I didn't know I had. Why? Because I'm playing efficiently now. And then if I play my 3C too much, all of a sudden I get back into that, you know, because I'm a trumpet player. Oh, yeah, more air, more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit here and, you know, when we're done with this, I'm gonna sit here and build these chops up to be like horse muscles, right? 'Cause that's what it takes. No, no,
That's fantastic.
we're not lifting weights,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you watch Maynard Ferguson play on the Ed Sullivan Show
Yeah.
when he's like 21 or some stupid young age, and he's playing the Maynard Ferguson song live on TV. He's not working at all. He's not working here. He's too kind of a little show, not as much show as he put on, you know, he would put on older later in his life when he's doing his whole thing. He's not working at all, and he's playing E flats above double C that could probably drill a hole through a wall.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that. And that's what, so that's going back to my original point, is a lead mouthpiece can be a great tool if used correctly, you know. Not for everyone, but yeah, and we get that a lot because section players, classical players, all of a sudden, yeah, you have a high F, you have a high G to play at the end of this chart. Well, I've been sitting fourth and I've been using my 1.5C that I use in brass quintet. Okay, have fun with that.
Well, I mean, because it is a thing. Like when I say it was geographical, I noticed a lot of, again, because I know a lot of my buddies out there in LA, when they went to LA and when they came from somewhere else, and they're not really lead players, but when you get in those rehearsal bands, they start handing you lead charts like this. That you can't just sit in one chair in those bands. You got to be able to play them all.
No, and you have to sound decent, and it's a training ground, and that's also where the next big player gets called. Yeah. So that's, if there's young players that want to come to LA or any New York or any big, music center, you have to be comfortable. That doesn't mean you need to scream double C's all day, but you need to have a comfortable range. You have to be confident. And you may get a chart that doesn't have high F's or G's or A's in it, but you need to have a solid D and E, at least, and be confident with it. And that's the thing. Like, you're sitting down on fourth for an hour and a half, and then you get a chart on there. You got to play a shout chorus and mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question. So it really would be convenient if you could take your rim and then all of a sudden screw it on another underpart that's a little more efficient, that would then give you that confidence. Is that cheating? No, that's getting the job done.
Right.
That's sounding your best.
Right. And then, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but just a press pause. There is a stigma out there of, I've seen the instructors say it, and I even heard top-notch pros say, well, that's cheating. There's no such thing as cheating. Can you elaborate on that real quick?
Who should you be with? Well, I mean, you should listen to the contractor because they're paying you. Yeah. The music director, who's hiring you. Yeah. Your goal is between you and the audience, right? And the audience doesn't care what horn you're playing. The audience doesn't care what mouthpiece you're using. All they care about is how you sound, and also that you don't look nervous on stage, right? There's nothing worse than sitting. Well, maybe because I'm a trumpet player, but really, there's nothing worse than sitting back and you see the trumpet player, and he's like, and then he's got the rag, and then he's doing this, and then he's like, getting ready for the note. It's like, oh my God, I don't care if he makes the note or not. Like, I'm going to have a heart attack just watching the poor player, right? It's confidence and having the right tool for the right job. Trumpet playing is not easy, and it's getting more difficult thanks to people like Maynard Ferguson and Wayne Bergeron and band directors that pull out big fat band charts for their high school bands to play. And you have to show up with a bag of tricks. Like, you can't be the plumber that shows up to fix your bathroom plumbing with one wrench. Yeah. Man, you may be the most talented plumber in the world, but if I had a plumber that shows up with one wrench, I better not be paying him by the hour. Because if he can fix my entire bathroom with one wrench, more power to him, but that's not efficient. Yeah. The result might be fine and my sink works, but he shows up with a bag and knows what each tool is for and when to use it. Yeah. Why? Because why not? That's what tools are for. Bach mouthpiece. I love Bach mouthpieces. They were designed 100 years ago. the teens, the 20s,
Yeah.
kind of the first Bach mouthpieces. How high did you have to play on the trumpet in 1925, 1926?
Yeah.
Not double C, you know. I know that. The range of the trumpet was high C, high D. There was no big band. There was no lead charts. There was no Jerry Hay arrangements. There was no Earth, Wind, and Fire. There was no salsa, right? The mouthpiece wasn't designed to do that kind of stuff. Yes, you can make it, but I mean, then why would I hammer in a nail with a screwdriver?
Right.
And say, I mean, yeah, there might be something macho and make a good TikTok video of me doing something like that would go viral, but why?
Yeah.
Use the right tool for the right job. It's so much easier. You'll be happier. The audience will be happier. And if you have a good music director or contractor, they'll call you back because they'll recognize that the audience was happier. You know, that's the goal.
Going to what you just said, when I was a young player, you know, when I was in high school in the 90s, okay.
You're still a young player, Joe. Come on.
And when they were we had to play Kubas, and those things were like, I mean, I've never seen a high E or a high F sharp in a piece before. I was like, how am I going to do this? And then again, I was lucky enough. One of my gave me a 43 ES and said, this might help, you know, and I lost the piece. I don't know what I did with it, but I mean, at that point, you know, you're right. I mean, and then, you know, my band director at the time said, why are you cheating? I'm like, what? I'm 16 and there's an F sharp at the end of this. I'm trying to survive. You know, I'm trying to get through the thing. So I think for young players, there's no such word as cheating. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, there's a fine line between using your equipment as tools and kind of just what I call the shotgun approach of, well, let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. And if the F sharp doesn't come out on anything, you're not helping anyone.
Right.
Right. But I would bet, like, after you played the 43 ES and the F sharp came out, you were able to do it on your bigger mouthpiece later.
Yes, I was.
Right. It was a tool because you found out where that energy was, what that feeling was to get that note. And then you were able to apply that to the bigger equipment. And it still might have been easier to play on the 43 ES, but you know, you may not have gotten that note had you not used something that was designed to make those notes easier. Now, I mean, if you're choked up and you're not playing fundamentally correct, no mouthpiece is gonna help you. So yeah, those players are that gives the stigma, because the players that don't practice, the players that don't listen to their trumpet teachers, and then they just try to fix everything with equipment. I mean, that's no different than the woodwind players that blame their reeds, right? And you know, trumpet players, we do not want to be woodwind players at all costs. That's why we kind of look weird at the French horns, because they hang out with the woodwind players every now and then. Right? Let's be honest. So that's the thing. So you have to have the fundamentals first. But if it's a tool for a legitimate reason and it's helping you, there's no such thing. I have a reverse cheater mouthpiece. I have a mouthpiece that I use when I play in church, and I have to sit through a half an hour sermon, and it's cold, and then I have to come in and play a low D or a low C underneath the choir, right? So I have a really deep mouthpiece that I use to help me get those low soft notes out easily, so I don't sound like crap in a church that's going to bounce all around. Is that cheating, or is that making sure I sound good?
Yeah.
Like, yes, if I was Phil Smith, I could do that on a normal setup, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a job to do and I want to get hired back again. So yes, I'm using tools to allow me to do my job better.
You're absolutely right. And one of the problems I see with a lot of young players and a lot of amateur pros too. And again, John, I appreciate it. We went over time. I thank you so much for your time.
I told you, part 3, I could talk forever.
See,
this is going to be like the Star Wars trilogy, which will then stretch out to 9 episodes, and I'll still be talking.
And you know, John, you're one of my favorite guests. Pardon.
Oh.
I mean, it's just like, you know,
I wish I could hug you through the screen.
You're great to talk to, you know, and you understand the problems we all go through because you see it every day of your life.
because I've gone through them all.
Yeah, but you also see it. You get calls
I've
about
gone through them all myself.
it. Yeah. And a lot of people forget what it's like, but you deal with it on a daily basis. All you guys at Bob Reeves deal with it on a daily basis. And I'm not trying to shun any other mouthpiece maker or whatever, but the thing is that you guys understand, and that's one of the things I really love about you guys. Um, but in closing, I just wanted to ask you just one last thing, and then you just um, so like you said, our industry changed almost overnight due to the pandemic and this, that, and the other. And I'm not going to go into the business part of it, but I would like for you to kind of tell us from the kid sitting at home right now with his Arbenz book to the seasoned pro who's been in the business 50 years. What would you recommend? How would you recommend, uh, you know, uh, for any player right now, what would you recommend they do to kind of ignite that passion again, or ignite that, because a lot of people are, they're like you said, they're hanging it up. Like, what have you saw from a lot of the players you've dealt with, how they ignited that passion back, or how they kind of got that focus back into?
Yeah. Well, and that's a great question. Um, you have another 2 hours?
Sure.
Well, and I mean, at first, you have to define what business you're in, and it may not be a business. You may be an amateur musician that's just uninspired right now. But so, what do you do? What is your hobby? Is it sitting at home playing Abersols? Is it connecting with people? Is it making music at church? Is it making Jerry Hay horn section stuff? Is it playing, or like, what is your passion? Is it just connecting people? Does it matter what kind of music you're playing? Um, and then have a vision, like have an outcome, give yourself an outcome, and it may be not anything to do with connecting with other people, maybe just personally, what do you want to do? Learn a new language, learn jazz, learn bebop, learn free jazz. I mean, like, do something crazy, do something different, and if you don't like it, you can always change course because there's no place to play right now. Right.
Right.
um but start with an outcome, and then change your state. First of all, turn off social media until we're done with this.
Yeah,
Let's finish
don't,
up.
don't do that.
Yeah. Don't turn off now. Turn off the news. Like, I got rid of cable. Like, I got rid of TV. I turned off everything. I'm rarely on Facebook except for very specific trumpet things, like your stuff, some of the trumpet groups that are posting inspiring videos. I get rid of the ones that aren't. Twitter, I'm off of like everything, and I focus on what I can have control over, like we talked about before. My state, right? What are my emotions? How am I dealing with this? Well, I'm going to come out. I want to be on the side of things when this is all done, that I'm not crippled in the corner crying.
Yeah.
I'm going like all cylinders, right? And the shop is firing on all cylinders right now. We don't care if business is coming in or out. Like, we're doing stuff. We're doing things we've never done before at the shop. We talked about sterling silver before. Like, we have Brett, man, the guy is incredible. Brett hand carved a sterling silver rim. We have a video of it on our YouTube channel. This is something that's never been done that I'm aware of in the industry. Bob made, so I'm going on a side trip, but Bob, he cast a copy of a mouthpiece in sterling, but he never machined it because he told us how terrible it is, and it's an expensive metal. I was like, $400 blank of metal, and I was like, Brett, you got one shot at this, custom copy, hand carved, and he nailed it.
Wow.
Right, and now we're making another one.
Wow.
Yeah, customer loved it so much he ordered another one, and I mean, that's a game changer, something we haven't done in 50 years, but when's a better time?
Yeah.
Right? We're not traveling. We're not going to IHG. We could be sitting there saying, man, all of this stuff, all these opportunities we didn't have in the last 6 months because of this thing. We could be sitting there thinking about that. And it's like, what can we do new? We're good. Actually, we have a new material showing up at the shop. I can't tell you what it is yet, but we have a different material showing up at the shop this week that we're making a trumpet and a trombone mouthpiece out of. Like, we're breaking new ground. We have a new backbore, that's what we're doing as a shop. As a musician, you can do the same things. As I mentioned before, there are musicians out there that now have huge followings on social media Some of them aren't even very good musicians. They're young. They're high school kids. Well, yeah, I mean, get in line, right? But that's the thing. It's like, you think, oh yeah, okay, well, it's so-and-so who plays principal trumpet in a symphony or something. It's like, no, these are high school kids that have bigger followings than we do,
Right.
because they're putting great content up every day.
Right.
And that can be monetized whether they want to do it or not at some point.
Yeah.
The mold is different. The world has changed, like you said, but it's easier now. I mean, Blue Note is live streaming. I can sit at home and watch the Blue Note for thousands of dollars less than me flying to New York or flying to Tokyo and paying 2 drinks and dinner and the cover charge. For $20, I can hear the world's best jazz musicians. The opportunity, and for them, instead of having to fill the 75 seats or 100 seats that are in the Blue Note, they can get thousands of people streaming for $10 or $25.
Yeah.
Is it the same as in person? No, of course not. Yeah. But the opportunity out there is incredible. It's just, what do you make of it? Whether you want to monetize it or whether you just want to rebuild yourself or take yourself to the next level. It all starts with your state, your mindset, moving your body a little bit, drinking, not I won't tell you how many bottles of gin I went through in the first few weeks of the pandemic, but let's be honest, like, I felt terrible, and part of the reason was I was treating my body terribly.
Yeah.
That was my natural reaction. So it's like, I'm drinking water like crazy. I quit coffee. Like, I had to do things that were radical in order for me to get out of the funk, right?
Right.
And this is the time to do it. This is the time you can risk everything, because as far as working musicians go, there's nothing anyway. So the upside can be huge, right? There's no downside right now because no one's hiring. The upside can be huge. Like I said, the pandemic in the Spanish flu, right, led to the Roaring 20s. The next renaissance of music from the original Renaissance. Yeah. How much came out of those 20s that we're still, I mean, American music fostered, recording fostered, jazz, like all of this stuff. So that can come again, and it will. I'm confident.
Yeah. Because people are especially people are thirsty right now for entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
And so
and then the nuts and bolts of that is talk to you about mics and how to record and all of that stuff. Learn that equipment, because that's where the future is home recording, doing stuff here instead of in a studio. So talk to you about that, because the stuff you're putting out on that is great.
Oh, thanks, man. John, like I said, you are one of my favorite guests I've had on. And the reason why is because you understand a lot of our plights and a lot of our problems. And I want to, first of all, thank you for the 90 minutes I took out of your life. I know you can't get that back, but I'll try to make you repay the favor. But
well, I don't know if you can tell how animated I am, but I love chatting with you. I'm honest. I wish I could give you a big hug right now. and what you're doing is incredible. The people you're getting on, I mean, I can't believe like you would ask me the first time you asked me, I was like, you want me to talk about what I do? And then you want me to follow up. I mean, it really means a lot to me. And this is what we need. We need to hang. We need to chat. We need to connect, because we're more alike as a society, as a country, and as a world than we think.
Right. And we're all you and I and Bob and every trumpet player on the planet are in this together. We're in the same.
We're all a little nuts.
Yeah.
We're all a little nuts.
Yeah.
And we're all a little lazy because of the 3-valve thing, but we're all in this together.
And again, I would suggest anybody just pay a visit to the shop if you can, and talk to John. And if you have any questions, again, John's one of the nicest guys on the planet. He will answer your questions. If not, Keith will answer your question. I mean, there's somebody who will answer your question. And again, give Bob a hug for me when you see him.
Will do.
Also, guys, I want to share with you real quick. Try the Van Lars. Go try if you have the capacity and you have the wherewithal to even purchase one. But I tried one. I tried a friend's, and I had just bought a horn like 2 months ago. Now I'm gonna buy a Van Lars. So I mean, anyway,
Yeah, I mean, they're worth trying. The Charlie Davis are worth trying. If you're in Europe, go to the Van Laar factory. I mean, and I've recommended that to customers, not to go off. I know you're wrapping up, but you know, I have like 3 or 4 Van Laars in stock right now. Like they're really hard to get, and that's a big selection.
yeah.
So when things open up, sometimes, especially the investment you're making in a horn, fly to the factory. They have an incredible showroom. The people there, like I said, they're like the Bob Reeves of horns. Like they know everything. They'll sit you, they'll line the horns up. I mean, it's an experience. So yeah.
And like I said, try those. Question, just real quick. You know what? We've been on for 90 minutes, and now I'm just getting a bunch of questions. So, if possible, would you be willing to come back and just do a Q&A?
I've got all night. Yeah.
All right. So, anyway, John, thank you so much, man. You're a peach of a guy, and you know the work you guys do at Bob Reeves is fantastic. Thank you, thank you for all the stuff you do for us trumpet players and brass players. And
my pleasure. It's an honor.
And you know, we look forward to talking to you guys. Again, guys, check out John Snell's Other Side of the Bell podcast. You can catch it on Apple, iTunes, and also catch his webinars, man. They're great. They're inspiring. John's a great host. And you know, I've never seen anyone moderate 300 guests at one time like John has. That was amazing. I don't know how you did that. That's just, yeah, another level on, you know, I have trouble doing like 3, but you know, you do it, and you do it very well. And so guys, go ahead, catch those. They're very inspiring, very informative. And John, thank you again, my friend. And we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
That was my fault.
Enjoy your Sunday, guys. John, thank you again, my friend.
Thanks, Joe. Can't wait to see you in person, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.